All right, guys, it's Brad with College SportsCast. We are here tonight to do week 2 of our game day pick'ems. What's up, John Hammonds?
What's up, man?
What's going on tonight, man?
Not much.
So you went to a high school football game?
Yeah, I went to my home school. It was 7-7 at halftime. Somerset, not Central. So, pretty evenly matched game tonight. To me, both offenses were struggling until I think late in the first half or second quarter, but they was straightening some things out before halftime. So, should be a fun game second half.
All right. I know you had went to a football game, so
I'm going tomorrow.
Could start with that and kind of touch on it.
And I'll be at the UK
South Carolina
game tomorrow. So.
Yeah, John's going to the South Carolina UK game tomorrow, so hopefully you can get there to enjoy some of the SEC Nation as well, because they're there as well. So
yeah, your buddy Paul Feinbaum will be there. So
yeah, he had the baseball coach on today. He had the women's basketball coach and Brooks on. So and Georgia Amore was on the Paul Feinbaum show today that I helped cover here at College SportsCast. So it's always exciting to see SEC Nation. A good win tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe College Game Day will be there next week for the Georgia game. You never know.
Maybe so. You never know.
All right. So as we get started here, I do want to throw up our Facebook thing here. So if you are watching us on Facebook, you can help support us by sending stars. So that will help us make money to continue to make content for you guys, and we would appreciate that. You can also subscribe to our page. It's only 99 cents a month, and you can't beat that price. You do get your own subscription page when you subscribe, and I do share things in the subscribers page and try to keep up with that and have some different content for you guys as well. So those are the two ways to help support us right now, and we would appreciate that. All right, so we are here to do our Game Day Pick'em Week 2. I'm not sure if John Roberts is going to get here in time to join us tonight. He had a event that he was going to, said he was going to be rushing back to try to make it. So I don't know for sure if he is going to be here, but I do want to mention that he is a part of this, and I told him if he does come in that he could hop on at any time during the show here. So we may add John Roberts to the show tonight. I'm not real sure. But anyways, let's kind of get things started just a little bit here. I'll start by this. Last week, we picked 11 games. And our week 1 picks, John, looks like this. So our week 1 scoreboard, I was 7-4 in our 11 games. John, you were 6-5, and John Roberts was 4-7. Now, I will say this. John Roberts is the different one here at College SportsCast. He likes to go with the underdogs a lot of times. So sometimes the underdogs don't pull it out, by the spread and that kind of stuff. So, but you got to have something a little different here. So week 1, John, me and you are close. I was 1 game ahead of you last week. I will say this. 2 of the games I missed are 2 games that I said I didn't like even picking, and that was the spread of 21 for Michigan over Fresno State, and they wound up winning by 20. That was one of my losses. And then the other loss was the LSU-USC game, 2 of my 4 losses, and I said I didn't want to touch that game. I hated it from the beginning, and sure enough, I missed it. And I just didn't have a good, comfortable feeling about that game. So anyways, 2 of my losses of the 4 losses were those 2 games, and I said right here that I didn't even like picking them 2 games. So, it is what it is, but that's how we started. I will keep up with this year, and each week we'll do a cumulative scoreboard here at College Sportscast. Last year I was about 60% in my picks. I led. John was second, I think, and then we had John Roberts was on some and had a few guys on last year as well. So, but we will keep up with this as the season goes along. So we are now here at week 2. And of course, it starts out, John, with possibly the biggest game of the week. I mean, I feel like it's the biggest game of the week. You've got a top 10 matchup here to start the week off. And I don't know about you, but I kind of like this new setup where, the last 2 weeks, the opening game last week was Georgia Clemson. This week is Texas Michigan. Like, I kind of like the opening game of the week being right there, at noon kickoff. What do you think? Do you like that or not?
I do. I watched a little bit of Michigan and Fresno State last week, and Michigan didn't really impress me that much. They had to get that extra interception to finish the game off, and I thought they kind of looked kind of mediocre on offense.
They're going to need Will Johnson to do something like that again this week, probably.
Michigan, to me, their defense is good enough to keep Texas off the board, I think, for long stretches at times. But they're going to have to move the ball to win this game. They're going to have to score, and they're going to have to make some plays. Their O-line looked okay. The quarterbacks and receivers, to me, were just average at times. I think the Longhorns make a big difference in this game, and I think they win a second straight game, big statement game. And I think they cover this spread, and I think they go in the big house and they win this game. And what they'll be doing, they'll be snapping the longest home winning streak in Ann Arbor. This will be and I'll even go as far as saying this, that if Michigan ain't able to limit their possessions, this could get ugly very quickly. Because Texas has got some playmakers, and they got a really good receiver.
I mean, the biggest concern for me, John, in this game is Texas offense. Back up. Let me back up. My biggest concern in this game is the Michigan offense versus the Texas defense. That's my biggest, their offense, Michigan's offense. I mean, they're starting a former walk-on quarterback, and they're bringing the other guy in, the athletic guy. What's his name? Orgy. They're bringing him in spots, and he was the blue chipper basically, but they're not even starting him. And to be honest with you, he's only in certain packages, and their offense struggled. And Texas defense is fast and can hit hard. I watched them some last week in that opening game. I just feel like Texas has a big advantage when it comes to their defense versus Michigan's offense.
I think they got a big advantage up front offensive line than Michigan does. And like I said, I just think that Michigan's going to have to make some plays offensively. They're going to have to move the football if they want to have a chance in this game, because if they don't, I think what you're going to see, Texas to get up 14-0, 17-0, and that's going to be tough to overcome if their offense can't move the football.
I mean, you got Donovan Edwards in the running game, and I would think you're going to see quite a bit of trying to pound the ball, but I think Texas is going to stop a lot of that. So it's going to come down to these quarterbacks. I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. And to be honest with you, Quinn Ewers is night and day a better quarterback than what Michigan is
Yeah,
starting. And I can't
I
remember
think I trust Quinn Ewers in a game like this than I do on the other side.
Yeah, you got Quinn Ewers on the one side, and he's got Bolden and Golden and Bond,
Yeah.
Isaiah Bond,
Well,
in case y'all caught that.
they got the good tight end. They got the good tight end from Alabama, the transfer from Alabama that's really good too.
Yeah, they just are full of weapons on the outside. Now, I know Michigan has Will Johnson, and
they got Mason Graham too up front, which is
well, I'm talking about on the outside. I mean, Will Johnson's probably one of the best corners in the game, but he can't cover them all. You know what I mean? So, when you got that many weapons, you can't cover them all. The spread here at DraftKings is -7 tonight. And I'm going to be honest with you. As tough a place as it is to go into the big house and win, like you said, it could snap the longest home win streak for them. I just think this Texas team is that good. They have that kind of talent across the ball on both sides. And I'm taking Texas in the 7 points. I really think they're going to cover this.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. There are 2 noon games here that are really good. The next one is an SEC school as well. We got Arkansas going to Stillwater and playing Oklahoma State. Now, this spread has been up and down. I looked at it earlier. It was at 9.5. About 2 days ago, it was like at 6.5. So it has been betting up. So it was 9.5 earlier. That's what we're going to go with here, John. So what about the Cowboys at home against the Razorbacks?
Listen, Oklahoma State to me is really, really good. They're deep, experienced. They got a really good quarterback in Alan Bowman. They'll be playing at home. You got to like what you've seen from Arkansas last week. They 10 possessions, 10 touchdowns to start the year. If you would have said that last year, you would have thought, well, it's total a game changer. Well, from getting Bobby Petrino in there to last year. And I think that was a big difference in their offensive game and their style of play that they run. But for me, I think it's still a little too bold to pick this game in Arkansas's favor. They're going to have to put 8 men in the box and stop their running game. If to be fair, if they have a chance to win this game and probably dare Oklahoma State to throw the football. Because if they put the 8 guys in the box, I think they can do some things and stop Ollie Gordon, but you're going to have to stop the passing attack of Oklahoma State.
You got Bobby Petrino that, like you was talking about, they put up a lot of points last week, 70, as a matter of fact. But they played a very small school, and, they're going way up in competition in Stillwater in this game. Do you think Arkansas is going to put up some offense here in this game?
I think they can.
Taylor Green looked good last week.
I think they'll move the football on them. I just don't think it's going to be enough to be able to win Stillwater. Stillwater is a tough environment to play in, and I just think Oklahoma State is going to make a statement here. But I think Arkansas will cover the 9.5.
So you're picking the Razorbacks to cover the 9.5.
Yeah, the Razorbacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this game, you're talking about Bowman. He's in year 7 of college football. You're talking about experience. There's not many quarterbacks in the country that has the experience of Alan Bowman. So when you look at that side of the ball, it's definitely going to be, when you look at Oklahoma State offense versus Arkansas defense. I really think it's going to be an advantage to Oklahoma State there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's probably going to be kind of even when you look at the other way around with Arkansas offense and Oklahoma State defense. So this one, the spread is kind of getting me. I think Oklahoma State is going to win this game. The 9.5 points, I'm just not real confident in, to be honest with you. But I think I'm leaning towards taking Oklahoma State in the points in this game at home. I'm not yet trusting what we saw last week with Arkansas. I know they put up a lot of points last week, and they do have Bobby Petrino. Taylor Green looked really well, looked good last week, but they're doing a step up here, and I'm just not quite trusting Arkansas just yet. I'm not saying if they put up a good showing here that I won't next week or from the rest of the season. So here, week 2, I think I'm going to take Oklahoma State and lay the 9.5 points. All right. Then, John, we are going to move on to Louisiana game here. Kansas State is going to Tulane, and I find this game a little interesting. They're taking on the Green Wave at home, and Kansas State's an 8.5-point favorite. Now, this is a spread that's also moved. It was 10 earlier in the week. It's actually come down a little bit in favor of Tulane. It's at 8.5 this evening, about 6 o'clock. So that's what we're going to go with here. Tulane is coached by our boy John Summerall. He got the first big win last week. Do you give them a chance here at home?
I think there's always that chance, but I think I'm going to roll with Kansas State in this game. I think they're expecting a really big year in Manhattan. They're expecting really to win the Big 12 this year, and I think this is one of those games that they need to win and they need to take care of business. And I think this will be close for 3 quarters, but I think towards the end that Kansas State will pull out all the stops and win the game. And I think they cover that 8.5 spread. I think that's about right for a power 4 game in a group of 5 game. I think that's about the point spread's about the right amount.
I'm going to be honest with you, John. When I saw 10 points earlier in the week, I was kind of leaning Tulane here at home.
Yeah, I was
kind of leaning Tulane here at home at 10 points. I think the Kansas State Wildcats are probably the better team here. I do fully believe in John Summerall and what he can do. I think this team is going to be a tough game here at home for Tulane, for the Wildcats. I do not think this is going to be a blowout by any means. So I really was kind of leaning when I saw it at 10. When it's coming down here, it gets a little more tough to pick Tulane in this game, I think, as it comes down. At this point, it'd have to be 8 or less to win this. I think I'm going to take Kansas State on this side of the ball, for this game. I really wanted to take Tulane in this game, but it's hard to do at 8.5. I think so. If I was betting this one, I think I would bet Kansas State in 8.5. So I think that's what we'll stick with. All right, John, you're going to the game tomorrow. It's down at 6 o'clock my time tonight. It was down to 8 on DraftKings. South Carolina at Kentucky, 8-point spread here for the Wildcats. It's at home. And like I said, John, you're going to the game tomorrow. What do you think here, South Carolina coming to Kroger Field, Commonwealth Stadium?
There's some things there that you had to like about what Kentucky did, and then there were some things, for South Carolina that they did last week where they showed off a really good pass rush and a defense that can be really good. If Lenore Sellers could play a little bit better, I think, and get some help, I think South Carolina can stay around this game. But it's going to be tough, and I said it this afternoon. I was speaking to somebody about Kentucky. You can struggle against ODU and have those moments where you don't really look that great, but you're going to have to play better against a better front four in Kentucky because you're going from ODU to a legit front four in the SEC. And I like this line. I think it's about right. There were a lot of miscues last week offensively for South Carolina. Their route running, especially at the quarterback position. However, I think the defense did force 4 turnovers, but they're going up against a better quarterback this week in Brock Vandagriff. And we'll find out in the next 2 weeks what Brock Vandagriff has to bring to the table. South Carolina plays Kentucky this week. Then Kentucky comes Georgia comes calling next week. But I think Kentucky covers this spread, this 8 spread. I don't think South Carolina's going to be able to have enough offense to win this football game.
So, this is a game that if you are building a program, this is a game that you must win. That's what I will say. If you're building a program, you cannot let a team that's likely going to finish in the bottom half of the SEC come into your home and get a win. I think South Carolina did not look great last week offensively. I know that there has been a little bit of buzz that they played, pretty decent on defense. I question that. I mean, it was against ODU. No offense to Old Dominion, but I mean, they're not a top-notch college football program. So, some of the buzz that says that South Carolina played a pretty good defensive game last week, I kind of question that. I really do. I mean, against exactly what? They played good defense against what?
Well,
is my question.
And I think too, another thing to keep in mind is South Carolina's going to have to need a few more explosive plays, I think, to win this game. They're not going to be able to just go and they're not going to be able to run the ball like they want. Now, they'll get some run draws and they'll get some screens and they'll make some yardage, but they're going to have to throw the ball down the field and make some plays to at least have a shot to win this game, I think.
I mean, I think you hit on something with the turnovers. They forced 4 turnovers last week against Old Dominion. I will say this stat real quick for you guys. The last 3 meetings between South Carolina and Kentucky, the turnover margin forced is South Carolina has forced 8 turnovers and Kentucky has only forced 2 in the last 3 meetings. That cannot continue tomorrow if Kentucky is going to not only win this game, but comfortably cover. Kentucky, we didn't get to see even a full game last week. It was late at night and delays and over 2 hours and 20-minute delay to start the game. They started the second half and barely got in one drive. And they basically had another delay, called the game late. So we really didn't see everything that Kentucky has to offer last week.
Well, and 2, they was playing Southern Miss, which most people project to be one of the worst teams in the Power 5 in the group of 5. So,
well, they both played Sun Belt teams last week.
Yeah. So you're not really going to gain that much. But I felt like I seen more struggles out of South Carolina than I did Kentucky, and that concerns me going into this game.
I mean, Sellers can't be 10 of 23 for whatever, $112 or whatever he had.
He just simply can't do that against a pretty good front four and secondary Kentucky's got, because Kentucky is going to take it up a notch compared to what ODU.
And John, let's not hide the fact that their offensive line still doesn't look good, even against ODU. Their offensive line did not look good. So if Kentucky's defensive line can do their job, and defensive, let's call front seven, if they can do their job, Sellers should be running for his life. Now, I'm not saying he can't run. He can, and he might be able to get to the end zone. But, you know, he ought to be being chased pretty heavily with this front seven of Kentucky's defense. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you guys. I think this should be a lopsided game. I really do. I don't see this as a real close game. I'm in the 2 touchdown range here, you know, on this game. To be honest with you, I really don't believe that South Carolina's offense should be able to score over 14 points. 17 max, but I really don't feel like they should be able to score over about 14 points.
For me,
Kentucky's defense.
I think it should be at least a 35-17 type score, like at most.
That's where I am, somewhere in that range.
Because if you only beat South Carolina, say 28-20, 28-17, and you're barely beat this team, then that's going to cause for concerns going down the road against other teams.
I feel like Kentucky has just a ton better overall team. You look at defense, offensive line, even offense. I mean, you can even look at the offensive line, which everybody thinks Kentucky is a negative. But if you compare our offensive line to theirs, I think ours is night and day different, better.
Well, but South Carolina does have a really good player in Dylan Stewart on the defensive line, and they got a really good receiver in Nick Harbor that's really, really fast.
And they have a couple of nice edge pieces, and they might make our tackles have to work really hard this week. So, you know, tomorrow. Yeah. But I'm taking Kentucky to cover this spread fairly easily, to be honest with you. I mean, I just think this game is I was comfortable at the 10, and it's at 8. So I'm taking the Wildcats here. All right. The next game we're going to get to is